Hello and welcome. My name is Zaffar Iqbal, and you are watching the Mojo story. The tragic incident at Nagaland, in which 14 civilians were killed and a security force personnel was also killed, has brought back the focus on the Armed Force Special Powers Act. Now, for the benefit of the viewers, the Armed Force Special Powers Act, or the AFSPA, is an act of the Indian Parliament that grants special powers to the Indian Armed Forces to maintain public order in disturbed areas. Now, the army says that it was a case of mistaken identity. The Home Minister Amit Shah has made a statement in the parliament and regretted the civilian killings. Many other leaders have also expressed their views. They have reiterated their demand for the repeal of AFSPA, including the Nagaland CM, who has said that the law has blackened the image of the country. The Meghalaya CM has also voiced similar views. We want to discuss this entire matter. Well, is that enough to give justice to the families who are grieving right now? We're joined by an eminent panel to discuss this issue. We're joined by Rajat Sethi, who is the advisor to Manipur CM. We're also joined by Lieutenant General Satish, who is the former GOC of the 15 Corps in Kashmir. We are also joined by Manno who's a journalist based in Nagaland and right now in the same area where this incident took place, and also Sanjay Hegde, who's a senior advocate. I want to first ask you, Manno, you are there at the spot. What is the situation right now after this incident took place? We know that people protested. There were candlelight vigils that were also organized. But what is the situation at the moment?
Thank you for having me tonight, this evening. The first thing that I can tell you right now is after the bloodbath and the tragedy, there is a lot of bitterness and mistrust. Okay, it has taken years and years for this, integration thing, for the peace thing to be ongoing, and to have that blown in one simple, what you call that as a mistaken identity or lapse of whatever, your judgments, your intels. I'm telling you, it has wiped up years and years of trust building, and years and years of the army, the defense, and the country trying to integrate Nagas into the mainstream. I think that has been hit a lot, and it's going to take some time, and a lot of answers before this trust can be rebuilt in the people and in the state.
We know the sequence of event. There was initially this firing from the army, then people had assembled again and again. There was again firing by the army, and then the people tried to attack an army installation, and again there were clashes, and again one person was killed. So obviously they will be seeing a series of events taking place. So at the moment you say the situation is under control, but it's tense and people are very angry.
Yes, people are. I mean, all those years of, I think trying to be, trying to bring ourselves to the mainstream and thinking, what, chalte, hum log, we are all together. Hum bhi ek Hindustani hu. I don't know if you people are aware that just last, I think 2 weeks back, we had a martyr from our place, Tizit, who was martyred along with the colonel and his family and 5 other soldiers in the Churachandpur incident. And the father of that army, the Jovan who was martyred, he had proudly declared that I have 2 sons. One has died today for the nation, and I have another son in the army to make India strong. This was the very strong message that the father of this martyr, had. Ngombang is his name. He had said this in a state, in a funeral, in the state funeral, and just not even a month after this pride that the father has shown in Indian army, this has been wiped, by some very very careless and callous, management of an operation that could have been averted. And there are a lot of rumors going on, and I'm really, really, sad to say that, people are, the media, some national media is, saying that the villagers have attacked the military. Nothing like that. It was a clear, unprovoked, and the police, the investigation has clearly ascertain that there was a volley of shots in, the vehicle that they were traveling in, without any kind of challenge or any kind of, warning to give up, their to surrender. So, because even under AFSPA, you have some certain SOPs, like, you warn them once at least before you shoot, before you attack. But here there was nothing of that sort. They were directly waiting in defense, and these people came unawares and they were shot. And the killings would have stopped at 6 people. I'll
Yeah.
tell you one thing about some cultural and traditional sentiments of the Nagas. Okay, we
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
we
but
place a lot of.
you raised a very important point. I would like to uh, ask General Dua. He has been the corps commander in Kashmir. He's led many operations. What do you think, General? What went wrong in this operation?
Zaffar, first of all, allow me to express my regret at this sad incident, this sad loss of lives. It was completely avoidable. I, I understand that if it was avoidable, it would be avoided. But and I must also put in a disclaimer before I start saying anything, is that I am a retired officer, and I also know mostly from the media as to what has actually happened, and of course with a few inputs that one has from friends in the army, retired or serving. Uh, During any operation, the first thing is intelligence. While I will not decry the fact that it is a mistake, but to my mind, it is an honest mistake because there was some intelligence with this unit, and 21 para as special forces is the unit that's all out in the media. This unit has a very clean record of serving in the Northeast for so many years. And like Mano said, spoke about a soldier who was killed in action last month. This battalion also has a substantive part of its soldiers from the northeastern region itself. So they have been friends of the Northeast people earlier. Coming back to this operation, this is an operation where the intelligence that they had corroborated. On in hindsight, now it looks it was wrong, but the intelligence that they acted on was that there are terrorists in the truck and carrying weapons. Now, when they laid an ambush for that, they stopped the truck. The truck sped away, did not stop for whatever reason, and thereafter there was a situation where men started getting down from the vehicle and escaping, and fire was opened at them. Now, uh, this is the impression that I carry. Now, Manu, the journalist, is giving another story. The fact of the matter is, let's keep the incident aside because the army has expressed regret. The army has said that mistake has taken place, and a court of inquiry has been ordered under a high ranking officer. So the truth will come to light when an inquiry is instituted, when the inquiry gives out a finding. I'm sure the similar inquiry, the advisor to the chief minister will tell us, similar inquiry must have been instituted by the government itself. So, uh, the, no, nothing pains a soldier more than having a collateral damage of a civilian life. We value life. We don't have any axe to grind. The army does not have any axe to grind whenever in a certain situation, because that we don't belong to that place. We are serving the place. We are day in and day out. Army soldiers are out risking their lives, but counterterrorism scenarios are very tricky. For every one operation that goes wrong like this, there are thousands of operations which have saved lives by eliminating terrorists, by rooting out terror, by finding IEDs, by doing several other actions that keep the countrymen safe in their homes. So I would like to conclude by saying this operation has gone wrong. What has gone wrong, what action will be
Yeah,
taken, will be taken to rectify it, will come out in the
yeah,
course of time. The army has come clean. They have not tried to hide anything, and
yeah.
adequate mechanisms will be built in to ensure that recurrence does not take place.
Well, that's a very honest statement to make, General Dua. But I would also want to ask Rajat Sethi, there is a growing chorus about repealing of the Armed Force Special Powers Act, particularly from places in Northeast and from the politicians there. What's the sense that you are making out of it?
So, well, AFSPA has had a very, very long history associated with the Northeast. Anywhere around 60, 62 odd years, AFSPA has been in place. But if you look at the number of areas in which AFSPA is currently active vis-a-vis in the past, how ubiquitous AFSPA was, you will see that significant reduction in the area under AFSPA has come about. A lot of governments, and this is not a political issue at all. Um, Governments across the aisle have tried to reduce the area under AFSPA, curtail the powers that armed forces have, and there has been resistance from even from the armed forces. And there is also they have their own perspective, their own understanding of the situation, which merits giving close attention to what the armed forces are saying. But look at the general trend. The general trend is around 2000. It was started first by the UPA government, but largely around 2014 onwards, the area under AFSPA has drastically reduced. Tripura came out of AFSPA around 2016, around that time. Meghalaya has completely come out of AFSPA in 2018. Um, in Arunachal Pradesh, only three districts, Tirap, Longding, and one more district. These are the only three districts in the eastern side of Arunachal, which, by the way, have seen repeated insurgent activities in these areas, attacking the state police as well as the armed forces. Only these three areas in Arunachal are left, and the states in Manipur, for instance, where I am currently working in, the valley area, there is no AFSPA. It's just confined within the hill areas. Uh, and the state government, both in Assam and in Manipur, have the power to repeal AFSPA whenever they deem fit. Uh, Nagaland and the three districts in Arunachal are the only areas in the whole of Northeast where the central government takes the call to extend the AFSPA based on the feedback and the regular assessment that they do. Largely, the sentiment and the direction in which AFSPA is headed is towards total removal. When is
Yeah,
the condition optimal for that is needs to be evaluated not between us panelists but people who are serving
yeah,
on the ground and the politicians of the day. And I can tell you that the cache of arms that are currently being retrieved, for instance, in Manipur, looks like there is a small war which is being planned and being waged around the time when the state is getting into election mode. We've seen how the ambush in Chura Chandpur just a month back was carried out by the insurgent, and they easily slipped into Myanmar across the border. So look at the ground situation, and also look at the sentiment that the politicians, who are the representative of the people, carry. The answer lies somewhere in the middle, and I
yeah.
think that's the larger trend we are seeing with the political regimes of the day, that they're heading towards removal, but there have to be certain uh, points
Yeah.
that have to be crossed before
You know,
you cross
all
the
things
Rubicon.
have all things have to be taken into consideration, obviously. Sanjay
Right.
Hegde, the home minister made a statement in the parliament. He expressed his regret about the incident and also promised an investigation. But do you think that is enough? What is the legal recourse for the families, given the fact that AFSPA gives protection to the armed forces?
As long as the act is operational, there is no legal recourse because the act is very clear that you cannot have any civil suit or any criminal prosecution without specific permission from the government. It might be that in this case, the government could consider that we will allow a prosecution. There is the state government which whose police are investigating, but that is where the crucial call has to be that of the government. If it allows the police to investigate the army, the armed forces will not take that also easily. The real problem is this. The problem is that we have come to think that there are certain peripheral areas of our country, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is the Northeast, where we can suspend the rule of law, where we can hand it over to the army, and we can tell the army, look, nobody can come after you in the normal courts unless and until we sanction it. So there is a general sense of immunity given to the army, and within the army also, even a non-commissioned officer can order a firing after giving warning. In this case, apparently, even that part of the protocol was not adhered to. What should a government do? To my mind, a government should be fair between its people and its armed forces.
Yeah.
In a given case, the government should possibly say that, look, the act can remain, but individual actions we will not protect. And when there has been something egregiously wrong, then we will allow prosecution. The state can prosecute, and the government will not stand in the way.
But the army has an internal system of investigating the things. Court of inquiry has been ordered. Yeah.
See, that's a court of inquiry. If the court of inquiry then recommends a court martial, those are other things. Those are procedures within the army. It's just like this. Supposing you have a civil servant who does something wrong, which is criminal. That criminality can be prosecuted in an ordinary criminal court as long as the government or court sanction. Normally, what civilian officers do not end up in deaths.
Yeah.
They do not end up in shootings. The army has been given these powers to control insurgency on a very tight basis. It should not be seen as a blank check.
It should not be seen as a blank check. Manno, I would also want to ask you, General Dua wants to come in. Hold on, General Dua, a bit. I want to ask Manno that what is the amount of trust between the locals? An investigation has been ordered. Do people really, trust such investigations? And at the end of the day, will this quieten the situation now that regret has been expressed and investigation has been ordered? What exactly is the sentiment on the ground?
Zaffar, before I answer, your question, I'm going to say certain things, okay, which I know probably nobody will ever get a chance to speak on. Okay, I'm fortunate enough to be here today through Mojo to be able to say certain things, and I've been, sharing. I am from Moon district, and I am from Tizit, which is where Oting is. So I'm going to say a couple of things before I get to your question. Number one, Amit Shah has made a statement. See, first of all, let's not bring politics here. Nobody is going to blame anybody, any political party for this very thing. It's happened in a particular area. We'll narrow down to the issues there. The first thing is there is a very false narrative going on that the villagers have attacked. First of all, let me make it clear once and for all: it is absolutely false that the villagers have attacked the army. Okay. Number two, the situation escalated because, and we have, we don't have roads, but Indians are so business savvy that we have internet. We have all kinds of internet here. We have Airtel, we have Jio, we have so many networks. So we have internet. Villagers have captured every single video. They have it in proof. So nobody can, say, come on and say tomorrow ki, ye nahi hua tha, wo nahi hua tha, because hey, hamara paas proof. People have it. The escalation happened when the villagers came looking for their brothers who were supposed to reach 2 hours back to the village. They haven't reached. So they thought maybe they were involved in an accident, and they went back. When they went back, They could see the paramilitary forces, but they couldn't see the bodies. So the villagers asked them for the bodies. Where's the bodies? What happened? Where are these guys? And the paramilitary forces told them, "Cat, we are reinforcement. We have no idea who has taken the bodies." They found the bodies. The paramilitary was sitting on top of their pickups with the bodies beneath. They had covered it with the plastic wrappers, and there's someone, and they were sitting on top of the bodies. Some boys saw blood trickling down, and that's when they started shouting. There are videos of that. They're shouting, "The bodies are here, the bodies are," and that's when the entire situation escalated, resulting in 7 more deaths. Now we need to understand culture and traditional sentiments of the Nagas. The Nagas will not leave behind a dead body. This is how we are. We value dead bodies more than live people. This is how it is with us. This is our beliefs. We will not leave behind a dead body. When they had asked for the dead body, I'll tell you, 3 months back, 2 Naga women in the border of Myanmar was killed in landmines that was put by the army because of the presence of NSC and KYA. Did we report it? We did not report it. Why? Because we are used to civilians dying in such insurgency situations. We are used to it. We have accepted it. But what happened in Oting yesterday was not, any kind of, collateral damage that we can talk about. No, it was a direct attack, and the situation could have been controlled had the paramilitary forces told me, "You know what? We are sorry. We got the wrong information. This happened, but this is the body, and we assure you that this is not a mistake." And if they had stopped there and given the bodies, it would not have escalated. But instead of doing that, they hid the bodies and they were trying to lie, and this resulted in such an escalation. Now the problem is, uski upar, the Indian press should not give out the false narrative, because now the false narrative is what is it telling us? Ki tum log abhi bhi jhoot bol raha hai. Abhi jhoot mat bolo. Jo hua hai, acknowledge it.
There is an investigation in place, and obviously we are trying to put across the information that we are getting from all quarters, and that's why we have this show in the first place. Rajat, you heard those strong views from Manno. What do you make out of it? There's a lot of anger on the ground, as she was saying, that people will not leave behind a body. They value a body more. They respect the body more than a living person.
Well, I can only say that I'm speechless to what happened. How did the situation escalate so much that the civilians who had come to inquire about the whereabouts about their loved ones again were engaged in a crossfire. All of these things should be investigated absolutely to the threadbare, even if it requires 2 levels of investigation from the state police as well as from the central SIT. That should be done. This incident is, I think, the single biggest blot onto a journey where all the brethren, sisters of northeastern areas, states had decidedly started marching forward. And since I work in that area, I work in Manipur, I know people from all communities around the state have finally started saying that we have become part of the mainstream. We have started forgetting about the past injustices that were there. We have decidedly taken a decision that we will march forward shoulder to shoulder with the rest of the nation. And I think this incident needs to come to an emotional conclusion of sorts, that justice should be seen to be delivered in this incident. That's the spirit with which I think the central government should approach this topic, and even the state government should stand by with all its citizens in ensuring that whosoever is behind the escalation of this. And I think this is what the journalist from Nagaland, Mon district, is also referring to. Incident based on intelligence happened, but what happened after that could have been avoided. And I echo her sentiments. I mean, I feel shaken to the core, and I stand by her. And I think we need to trust our leadership, that some decisions should be made in the interest there where justice is seen to be delivered. And it will take time. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. And I think patience at this stage is what is needed. a time-bound based investigation of the case, time-bound based collection of all the evidences to this effect should be done, and the villagers should be involved in this in all the investigative processes, and justice should be delivered ASAP. That's the only
Yes,
wish that I have. I have
that's
no other
that
statement.
everybody shares the same view. General Dua, I wanted to ask you. You have worked in Kashmir. We know that Armed Force Special Pass Act is also in place in Jammu and Kashmir. I remember a few years back, former Chief Minister and then Chief Minister Umar Abdullah had asked for a phased withdrawal of lifting off from some districts which were so to say normal from the security point of view, like Srinagar and Badgam. I remember he had said that if situation demands so, AFSPA can again be imposed in those districts in the future. But that also received stiff resistance. What's the problem in that? Perhaps to restore the trust of the people, and as a measure to test the situation on the ground, can't it be done that a phased lifting of AFSA from those areas which are relatively peaceful?
Look, Zafar, before I tackle your question proper, I'm going to talk about a couple of other issues around AFSPA.
Yeah.
I'll limit myself to AFSPA. My heart goes out to the description given by Manno. And I have said it earlier that since that is another version, and by her own admission, she says there is another narrative going on in the press. So I want to leave the details away, because let inquiry or inquiries establish the details and let it come out. When it, or if it comes out that somebody is guilty of neglect or dereliction of duties, not following orders, and then, as Sanjay said, we heard the legal opinion to say that we can have a legal sanction, a government sanction, sorry, to take recourse to legal action. And let's not belittle the action that army takes. I know you also you alluded to that, Zaffar, yourself.
Yeah.
When I was corps commander and you were there in Kashmir, you will recall that army gave life imprisonment to 6 personnel, of which 2 were officers, or in a similar case, of which 2 were officers, and one of them was a colonel. So, and it is not the only case. So, army also carries out very swift action, and much faster than the civil justice system. Be that as it may, coming to your point, to your question about selective repealing of AFSPA, that's what you want to know.
Yeah.
To my mind, the situation has to come to such a pass that we can do selective repealing. I'll explain that with an example. In Mizoram in 1987, AFSPA was repealed overnight. It was repealed overnight because from the whole state. It was because an amicable settlement had taken place with the terrorist group. They had been mainstreamed. In fact, the leader became the chief minister. And then, so we knew that things are going to be peaceful. In Tripura, it was done selectively, as we just heard Sanjay also say that. I was the GOC there as a Major General then in 2012 and 13, when we shrunk the area considerably, and eventually it went off in 2015 or 16. Only 25 police station areas were left. Now, how does that happen? That happens when this situation has been brought down to very low levels, where you can where this is affordable. So wherever you still feel that there are some pockets that need closer watch, where army will be required, and I'll come to that in the end because that's relevant to this question, where army will still be required. The central and the state police forces are not adequate to deal with it. So there we will, AFSPA can remain in certain districts, and that is what happened in Tripura. Now here, and let's say J&K. You asked me about J&K, where Badgam and Srinagar are the two districts that you mentioned. In fact, there was you mentioned only Kashmir. The same thing was for Kathua and
Jammu.
Samba in the Jammu region
Yeah,
also. That okay,
yeah,
we should repeal from these four districts, two there and two here. The situation in J&K, you will agree, I'm sure all panelists will agree, is far worse than situation in the Northeast today. All right. So let me leave that aside and come back to Northeast. So I'm just trying to make a point as to why it cannot be done selectively. Why selective repealing should not be done, I will take it now. As Rajat just brought out, and we all know it's a national news, a tragedy took place last month where in an ambush, a colonel, five soldiers, and even two of his family members were killed. No, we are finding caches, like Rajat also mentioned that we are finding weapons and ammunition. We are finding operations of terrorists. So situation hasn't come to that pass where you can repeal it fully. Can we repeal it selectively? Is that what you said? So that it will douse the emotions. That is also
yeah,
true. It would douse the emotions if that's what you asked, or words to
yeah,
that
yeah,
effect. That it douse
yeah,
the emotions if we
yeah,
repeal it selectively. Now,
yeah,
my point is this: repealing of AFSPA should be done taking into consideration various angles, of which the security angle I will give you. That in situations like these, if you do it selectively, it creates a problem. It creates a problem that they find safe havens in those areas where AFSPA is not repealed, where AFSPA, I beg your pardon, has been repealed, and then can operate in those areas where AFSPA has not been repealed. And I'll be very upfront and frank to say, I don't know if Rajat will agree with me, this Manipur model of Imphal, to my mind, is one such case actually. There are areas where AFSPA is not applicable, and there are areas where it is applicable. So I don't think situation has come to that pass where we can repeal AFSPA selectively in the Northeast. So I mean that is my take, that we cannot do it selectively here, and we are obviously far away from a situation where we can repeal it totally. And
well,
last point
yeah,
I said I will come to that in the end, as and just a couple of sentences, that if you if the situation, if army has been called in, the situation has worsened to that extent that army has been called in to operate in the counterinsurgency and counter-terrorism scenario, the soldier has to be empowered, uh, has to be empowered enough to be able to operate in that area. If you do not have an empowering enactment and any legal empowerment, it will not be possible for the army to operate in that area. And in that case, the army will not be able to operate in that area. So that call is that of the leadership. Thank you.
that call is for the leadership. Sanjay Hegde, lastly, the investigations are underway. An inquiry has been ordered. We hope it would be a time-bound one. But what can be done instantly to douse the emotions of the people? As there was this, we're talking about selectively lifting AFSA from some areas. But besides that, what do you think is the best thing to do at the moment?
Well, I'm not a politician. I'm not a soldier.
Yeah,
The point is this: I can
yeah,
tell you what the law is,
yeah,
and I do have a certain sympathy for General Dua's position. If you send a soldier to settle an issue within your boundary lines, then
yeah,
he cannot always distinguish between friend and foe. Therefore, the soldiers and the army say that they need a certain amount of protection. That if they make a mistake, that the civilian laws will not apply to them.
yeah,
We, however, as a country, have to take a call. Uh, Mano was telling you how Nagaland felt integrated. This
yeah,
call that we have taken, that our peripheral areas are some areas where integration is still not on, and unless we can integrate forcibly with the gun, with the army, these elements will never go away. That kind of call, I think we really need to have a relook at. We have to stretch out. We have to assure the populace at large that irrespective of whether it is a policeman or the army, if somebody does it wantonly wrong, then the law will stand on up for the civilian. In this case, for instance, there were two incidents. The first incident, the armed forces could have got it wrong. The second incident, they were obviously they decided to shoot their way out of trouble.
Yeah.
The second incident appears currently. I'm not only prima facie view that appears to be the real problem. What the army does in relation to the second incident will be watched closely by the civilian population, and I do hope that the civilian population and the politicians who represent them take a call that in the first instance that we need to douse, we need to bring down temperatures. The only way of doing that is to assure absolute fairness and no cover-ups.
Absolutely.
And that whatever can be done by way of compensation, compensatory justice should be done immediately to bring relief. But whoever slept on the job, whoever was sloppy, and whoever ended up in that fatal situation, there should be no cover-ups.
There should be no cover-ups, obviously, also because of the fact that AFSPA gives protection to the armed forces. So it leaves really very little choice for the civilians. So it's all the more important that investigation is done in a thorough and professional way and in a transparent way, so that the guilty are punished and no such incidents are repeated. Because why I was saying this, because it's very important that it will set an example in the future also. What happens in this case will obviously set an example for the future also. And that's very important for the people. Obviously, the point is that people should get justice. They should see that all those, if there are people who are responsible for this, who have not done their duties professionally, and who there are lapses, there are security lapses that have to be looked into, and people should really get justice at the end of the day. That's all the more important for all the agencies and everybody. That's the point that we're trying to make. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, it's a very important topic. We tried to focus on different elements of this topic, but the point is that justice should be done and people should not feel let down. That's the point. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalists.